All right. So I'm back on it. So I told you guys I was gonna do my next discussion with about Jeff Benner's books. These five right here that you can see. I'm gonna test something, make sure everything is good. Let's see. Let me check. Oh, I think I got. Oh no, let me check. Oh, there we go. Yep, it worked. All right. So the first book I'm going to go over is a cultural and linguistic excavation of the Bible by Jeff Benner. Like I said, I had the opportunity to speak with Jeff Benner myself personally, which you can find on my YouTube. Just type in Rebirth of the Word. You're going to find it. I promoted it enough anyway, so y'all should be able to find it. It shouldn't be hard. But yeah, I had a discussion with him and we spoke about the Elohim because of course, like most people, I'm curious about who the Elohim is. And Jeff Benner has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to ancient Hebrew. So for me, I found it interesting about what we talked about. I still listen to it. But I've already did 10 of his books already. I'm going to do a couple of more after this one, but that's later on down the line. Um, uh, what I marked in this book, here, let me show you. Front cover. So this is the one right here that I'm gonna be going over. It's a very good book. Highly recommend it. I'm just gonna get it going. All right. So just like I said before, and I say it all the time, what I've learned from Jeff Benner is that we have to use our senses when we're trying to understand the ancient Hebrew text. And that has to do with, see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, right? So yeah, he talks about that. That's in his preface. He gives you an understanding. He says that his journey began in 1992, and he gives you his reasons why. So it gives you that, personal knowledge or information about that individual. Um, let's see, what did I learn from reading this book? Let's see. Okay, yeah, of course, he talks about the Old Testament, the Apocrypha, and the Pseudepigrapha. Um, I think that's important. The Apocrypha being known as sometimes the forbidden books or missing books or hidden books or whatever. It's quite interesting that people don't consider these books when they're studying the Holy Bible, I should say. For me, it's important to understand everything. I mean, all the texts from the Tanakh to Old, the Apocrypha to the New Testament to whatever it is that I can get my hands on. All right, let's see. Let's see. Nah, I'm not gonna do that one because I'll have to read the whole thing, and I'm not gonna do that. But it's about Moses. But anyway, let's see. Okay, yeah, here. So I thought this was interesting. There are two different names for Moses' father-in-law. Some of them they call him Jethro, and others call him Hobab. And then he talks about the styles of writing after that. So I thought about that, and you know what, I need to go back and probably look more into that again. I know there's different ideas and stuff like that, but I think I'm gonna go back and look more into that. So yeah, like I said, I learned that there were two different names for Moses' father-in-law, and that's Jethro and Hobab. Um, of course, if you read the Bible, you would catch on to that, but sometimes some people don't. But that refreshed my memory to go look for the text itself. Let's see. I love how this title that he puts, he says, the authors of the creation narratives. Now, I always talk about narratives. People always, they'll find a book or they'll find some kind of source that goes with their narrative, whether it's right or wrong. I mean, nobody's sitting here going to argue that point, which most people do, but I'm not going to argue that point right now. But it's just easy to find something to go with your narrative. I guarantee you right now I can find anything that I can give you if I ever created a narrative, which I don't, because if I create a narrative and something comes up later and shows that I was incorrect, how do I go back and explain that to somebody? And in most cases, most people won't even um catch on to it unless they're deep followers of yours. I mean, if they're a first time reader of yours and that's the first book that you're writing about, hey, you know you never wrote back about how you changed something, then that that person is just going to go off with your old information. I know. I give you a good example, perfect example. Darwin's books. I know that he went back and wrote his books over and over again because he revised them. He found new information and actually changed his information. Well, I know some people haven't read his books and they go off of one part of his information and don't realize that he actually revised and changed that later on. I actually did that in a space, I think a couple of weeks ago. We went, me and somebody else went through this one chapter. I can't remember. I should have wrote it down, but I never, it wasn't too important to me because it was easy to find if I can remember what if that person, me and that person can, if I can talk to that person and remember what we talked about exactly. But we got to the subject, and I opened up a version of what I've read, and he opened up a version of what he read. And then I told him, hey, well, in my book, it also tells me, because it's in the beginning of the book where it tells you that he revises his work. But that's just interesting to me. Let's see, what's the next thing that I highlighted. 'Cause some of this stuff is what stuff I've already just talked about. Oh, so here we go. I thought this was interesting. NASA, the Hebrew word NASA, means lift up. I thought that was interesting because I actually went to the Strong's Concordance, verify that. So NASA means lift up, and that's a Hebrew word. Let's see. Why did I mark this? Oh, okay, here we go. So I'm just going to read this one little paragraph that he says because this will make you understand. Because I talk about this all the time, but this is where I actually learned it from. Many will be familiar with the word manna, which is believed to be a Hebrew word when in fact it is not and never appears in the Hebrew Bible. The word manna, referring to the bread like substance given by God to the Israelites while in the wilderness, is actually called, I'm going to just spell it out, Mahn. The term manna, which appears in our English translation, comes from the Greek Septuagint. So whenever I talk about manna and talk about the where it came from and all this other stuff, and um, that's where I got it from, Jeff Benner. I get it straight from him. It's just interesting to me. So, like I said, and I know manna can also means man. So man and manna is one and the same. I don't think I marked that one on here. I don't think so. Let me see. Nope. Okay, here we go. Here's another one. Hold on. No, I'll have to read all that. I'm not going to read that. Let's see. Here's a timeline. All right, so let's go to the next book now, because all this stuff I already talked about. So Genesis, Zen, and Quantum Physics, a fresh look at theology and science of creation by Jeff Benner and Michael Calpino. Let's see. I don't think I marked too much stuff on there. Okay, so never mind. I know what this book was. This is hold on. Let me go to the beginning. Okay, so this is just basically a different interpretation of how how can I say, how the Bible, well, I'm not going to say the Bible, but some parts of the Bible, well, Genesis, I want to say translation of Genesis. So, like, the title is the quantum translation of Genesis 1 through 3. And then it gives you, I guess, what he says as a quantum translation. I'm going to show you the book because I just rather you just read it, because if you're interested and you're going to read this is interesting. Let's wait, hold up. My bad. There we go. Yeah, because I can't really explain this book to you because it's just a different way of translating Genesis, and it has 1 through 3. And here I'll give you an example real quick. So Genesis 1, within the beginning he filled the powers, the skies, and the land. The land she existed empty and unfilled, and a chaos was over the faces of the deep. That's like 2 lines right there. So you get a different type of translation. He didn't give an introduction to this. Hold on, let me see. Okay, so here we go. Yes, he did. He said, okay, so introduction to the quantum translation and commentary. So when he get like that part that I just read, it'll go from Genesis. It'll tell you what it says. So it says the translation you have just read is the product of years of work in a very unique environment. Obviously, the language is very different from most translations you may be familiar with. The authors decided early on in the project to emphasize accuracy of translation over ease of reading because of the belief that by accurately translating the meaning of the words, less of the author's own theology and philosophy would be inserted. So, um, and then I read this part. A crucial component of the translation is the use of the ancient Hebrew pictographs. This was especially helpful in the understanding words whose meanings may have changed over the centuries or who use in the text no longer made sense. So I always talk about that too when I talk about the pictograph. I say pictographic script. I think that's it for this book right here. Yeah, that was it because there wasn't really much in there to do because of Genesis 1, 2, and 3. So the next book, let's see, New Testament, Greek to Hebrew. Let's see, New Testament, Greek to Hebrew. That should be self-explanatory. I don't think I really marked anything in there. That's just how to use the New Testament, Greek to Hebrew dictionary. So I'll read this part right here. While this book will not enable you to do a complete retranslation of whole passages, it will provide a retranslation of specific words because the Greek and Hebrew languages are so vastly different. We will often find after retranslating Greek words back into Hebrew a very different interpretation of a passage. That just gives you an understanding of the translations. I'll show you. This one is 500 most frequent Greek words and names translated back into Hebrew for English readers. This one's by Jeff Brenner too. Good book, good book. You get a lot of information here. Or, of course, I can't read them, so I'm not gonna do that. But I am a promoter of reading books and definitely a promoter of where I get my information of. Because I know most times when I say things, people give a pushback, and I don't know why. Literally showing you where I get my information from. I mean, I really wish I could read these books, but of course, copyright. So I'm just giving you a little taste of, what I've researched myself and actually verified and looked into. Of course, promoting these books. So the next one is a Torah, a mechanical translation. Okay, let me see what I. Let's see, because I have these all on my Kindle. All right, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Okay. This is what I marked up that I feel like that this would be interesting for people if they want to read this book is the need for a mechanical translation. This is why it's important. Like I said to like I always say, reading different materials and understanding. It says many theological discussions, teachings, and debates use phrases like the Bible says or God says. From a technical point of view, the problem with these statements is the assumption the Bible was written in English, which of course is not true. The Bible does not say in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. A more accurate statement would be the Bible says, and then he gives what it says in Hebrew. I can't say it or read it, but it says, and then it says, which is often translated and interpreted as in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now, I always say this too, and people say we shouldn't take things so serious, or we should. Well, I'm just going to basically say what he says. He said, while this may sound trivial, it is in fact a very important issue. Many theological differences, divisions, and arguments are based on faulty interpretations of the text that could easily be resolved by examining the original language of the Bible. Yeah, and I say that all the time with the original languages, Hebrew and Aramaic. So, but even then, from my personal experience, you'll have two people who are professionals in this field, and they will have two different translations or understandings. So I mean, you can only get the. I mean, you have to find a middle ground, I guess. Let's see. Oh yeah, no single English word can fully convey the meaning of one Hebrew word. I think most people understand that and know that already. And then the last book I want to do, wow, it's only a 20-minute one. Let me see. I don't know. I don't know if I want to start a space after this. But anyway, Ancient Hebrew Torah. This will be the last one. Mm-mm. Ancient Hebrew Torah. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, okay, scroll down. There we go. Oops. All right, let's see. Oh man, it's got to load. There we go. All right, so yeah, most people already. Oh man, there we go. All right. So, okay, yeah, most people already know this, and this is something that I just marked. Uh, so this won't be fast. This talks about the Dead Sea Scrolls.
and the codex from Leningrad, and how they're similar, and there are differences, of course, because most of that stuff that they have similarities, and then they have differences. Okay, so yeah, here we go. This is where I talked about pictographic script again. I'll just say like this. It's like emojis of today. You know what I'm saying? You can use emojis to tell a story as long as two people get a basic understanding of what those emojis are. And most of the time you can, like if they're running, you can see that, you're going to have something to do with running. I think confusions would be something like, I remember seeing somebody saying that they was giving somebody the clapping hands or the praying hands, and some people can interpret it. I think it was clapping or something like that, praying hands and clapping, and so that can be a misinterpretation, or could be of some sort. Yeah, so I always talk about the pictographic script, and I say that because it's like going to a museum, an art museum. You know what I'm saying? And somebody telling you what you're supposed to see rather than the art speaking to you. So, I think it's important that we get to, because the only way we'll know what the story was told in the pictographic script is asking the person that was there. We can only give our best educated guess on what they possibly said from thousands of years later. So I think for me, it's important to look at the pictures and see what it says for myself, and then try to see if I can kind of figure it out first, what it's possibly saying, and then after a while read what other people say and see what they say. And I mean, that's how it rolls with translations and stuff. But yeah, that's the last one. So let's see, I'll probably do these two books right here next, from Homer and Godfrey Higgins. I just, yeah, I'll probably just do those two. And then we go on to the Mystical City God, Volume 1 through 4, Mary of Agreda. So, yeah, I'm probably going to do this in the next few days, too. So, I appreciate y'all coming out. I might start a space. I don't know, but I'll catch y'all later. Take it easy.